Let's welcome in our morning guest. Gaurang Shah is now joining us. Shrikant Shetty is with us as well as Vishal Malkan. Gaurang, let's start with you. What are your picks?
Pankaj, private sector banks mid-cap is something that excites us to a great extent, and two stock ideas on both we expect at least 15% return over 1 year kind of time horizon, and that is IndusInd Bank and Yes Bank. Over the last 18 quarters, the performance has been much better than what the estimates were. And our view is that other than the news flow which is doing the round, I think purely if you have to look at the functioning and the outlook in terms of loan book growth, both corporate as well as retail and consumer, our sense is that this is one bank that stands to benefit to a great extent. These two banks, that is. And of course, the discretionary spend going up could also trigger a larger, retail loan book growth over a longer period of time. So both Yes Bank and IndusInd Bank remain our on our buy list from a long-term perspective. And one other large-cap bank, ICICI Bank, which has been throwing signs of visibility in terms of turnaround over the last quarter, possibly in the coming quarters, that could be more incremental positivity in terms of turnaround. So ICICI Bank is the other stock. We expect a target of somewhere close to about 360 or 340 1-year basis.
All right, those are the picks coming in from Gaurang. Vishal, what are your top picks for the day?
I'll go with metal stocks, and I think Jindal Steel has been performed well in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and last 1 week it has been consolidating between that range of 118 and 126. So I think around with a stop of 115, I can get into Jindal Steel and look at a target of around 135 to 140 in the next couple of trading weeks. And overall metal sector has been doing well, and there is a sector support on that also. And the second one I would go with is Jet Airways, which has shown a good breakout above that 420 levels, and now it is sustaining above that with volumes. So I think there is further room for at least targets of around 500, 510 in the next few trading weeks.
All right, Shrikant, what are your top picks?
Well, we continue to like the banking financial space, so some of the picks are similar. We, on a trading perspective, we like Yes Bank, so we're looking at a target about 1525 there. Of course, from an investment perspective also, it's one of our top picks. I think similar to the earlier statements, I think we continue to like ICICI Bank among the financial spaces. I think that's where value is, and ICICI Bank, SBI, and these are some of the banks where I think at current index levels we find value in some of these banks. And in terms of large cap other names, we like Tata Motors at these levels. We think most of the worst is over there in terms of stock prices. We think at these are good prices to accumulate from an investment perspective. Most of the negatives, whether it's in terms of currency or in terms of slowing growth or in terms of dipping margins, we think we have seen it through, and things should improve from here on. So these are a few ideas which we're looking at.
Right. A name that will be in focus will also be Dr. Reddy. So what has happened is that they have a plant where the US FDA was concluding inspection, and they have finally concluded the inspection yesterday with 13 observation, and a Form 483 has been issued. 13 observation tends to indicate that maybe the intensity is high, but at this point of time, we don't have the Form 483. It's not been made public as of now, but US FDA should make it public in the next few days. That's why nature of the observation is not yet known. It can be procedural. We have seen earlier that, even long Form 483s have led only to procedural sort of concerns and not essentially data integrity sort of concerns. As far as contribution is concerned, this plant has a very minimal contribution. It's about less than 5%. It's an oncology plant, and they have done most of their site transfers for them earlier. So they have done some site transfers from here on, at least for the near-term drugs, and that's why you don't see that there could be a major sort of a shift as far as this sort of a Form 483 is concerned. However, markets are concerned about Dr. Reddy's because their 3 plants are already under US FDA scanner with warning letter, and now this one is getting a Form 483. This is the pre-open price for you, 2.3%. ADR is already traded overnight. It was indicating a 3% sort of a decline start. So 2,770, that's where Dr. Reddy is expected to open.
All right, there are a few other stocks we're watching out for on news developments. Let's go through them. Let's bring up GAIL. GAIL is going X bonus in the ratio of 1:3. Then there are a pack of stocks giving out dividend, and they will adjust for the dividend today. We have HDFC giving a dividend of 3 rupees a share, Nalco giving a dividend of 2 rupees 80 paise a share, and Philips Carbon giving a dividend of 6 rupees a share. All these stocks will adjust for the dividend payout. Engineers India is going to consider interim dividend on March 16. And of course, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Pankaj spoke about this. Now, promoter Uday Kotak has sold 2.76 crore shares at 817 rupees a share. Canada Pension Plan has bought 92 lakh shares at 870 rupees a share. And Guess the Depot has bought about 1.84 crore shares at 817 rupees. So nearly 2,600 crore rupees of shares changed hands in Kotak Mahindra Bank. We have Fortis Healthcare, VEMFA and LP has purchased 24.34 lakh shares at 178.5 rupees a share. Fortis Healthcare is also going to be in focus.
Right, all of these stocks would also be in focus today. Gaurang, what do you make of the recent move in the market? Do you believe that markets is consolidating and waiting for a positive news flow?
So Pankaj, I think it's only prudent to have some consolidation, and given the fact that on 26th of December we were I think 7,900, and today we are much above those levels at 8,900 and possibly very close to the all-time high. And after the fantastic recovery that we've seen in our markets, whatever be the reasons locally or globally, I think it's only healthy for the market to consolidate, adjust, have a little bit of profit booking, step back a little bit, so that we make a very strong base over here to withstand the next up move. Now, what happens in terms of the state election outcome? Well, possibly you will have the clarity in the form of the exit polls and a better clarity on Saturday when we'll have the results out. The reaction to the outcome of result will be felt on 14th next week Tuesday, because Monday happens to be a holiday on account of Holi. And my sense is that if you get a decisive mandate in line with what the street expectation is, then I think taking off earlier highs, lifetime highs, and possibly going towards 9,300 or 9,500 is going to be a mere formality. If not, then I think you could have a similar kind of a correction on downside. In either scenarios, Pankaj, we remain extremely positive over a longer term period. And I think if you get any dips, or if you get a little bit of adjustment on fallback of a cracked verdict, I think that's going to be a great time to go and buy into the market.
Right, but buy on dips, that is ideally as a strategy is going to work, because it's been working for the last 3-4 times. So, do you think that will continue to be the case?
So, Pankaj, I think guessing election outcome in India is virtually an uphill task. And if you look at the outcome of the latest, local elections or global elections, Trump getting elected, Brexit coming through against all odds, I think a phased out buying is always advised. So, you don't need to be in a hurry to deploy your capital at one time, one go. There are events which are going to impact the market now, in the future. And I think we are going to overcome all those, keeping in mind the kind of growth that we've had, earnings visibility, government policies, implementation of GST, and a favorable monsoon, just in case if the Met Department has that kind of view, which they have expressed they have. But it's a little bit early to speak about that. So, having spoken about the events in the backdrop and the kind of outlook from a longer term perspective, our belief is that a systematic investment is always better, either direct equity or through an SIP.
Right, Shrikant, how would you look at the FII flow picture that is coming in? Do you believe that FIIs are turning net buyers, which should be taken positively?
We are seeing that happening slightly. At least the numbers seem to say so. But though most of them is probably on account of the block deal also. So if you look at the kind of flows which we have seen over the last few days, there is some improvement definitely. But then there is also DIS selling, which is also happening, which was probably the other way around when the markets were moving higher. So now we are into a consolidation mode where the DIS are in sell mode. And of course, in terms of event, given the kind of events which are lined up in the near term, I think there's some amount of cautiousness after the up move is bound to be there. And we're seeing that happening. We're seeing some consolidation in the markets. From a technical point of view, maybe there is some room for correction as well, given the kind of up move which we have seen. So maybe that will be a good opportunity to buy into.
Vishal, what do you see on the charts for Kotak Mahindra Bank? We had that big block deal a day earlier. It faced a lot of resistance around 830 levels and didn't quite conquer that convincingly. But the other indicators look comfortable. What would you do with the stock?
I think Kotak Bank yesterday had a big move with big volumes because of the block deal, but the pattern which has made on the daily chart is not bullish at all, because it's like a small body candle which it says indecisive. So I need, and that's an all-time high resistance also. So I want Kotak Mahindra Bank to close above 850 levels on a weekly closing basis, which is tomorrow. Then only I can take a fresh call on fresh buy for targets around 920, 930. But till then, I'll wait for the breakout.
All right. Shrikant, what would you do with some of these pharmaceutical names like Dr. Reddy's? Again, not finding a convincing way out of the US FDA crosshairs. And, everybody keeps saying that they will find a way out. Indian pharma companies have to do this. But it's not looking that convincing. What would you do?
See, I think eventually things will improve. That is bound to happen. But as of now, near term, I think it's an avoid clearly, given the kind of uncertainties which prevail across number of plants. There is no point in trying to play this game as to when things will become better for Dr. Reddy's. It's better to be with companies where you don't have such risks involved in the immediate short term, or where you are reasonably certain that things will, at least not so many plants are under the scanner. So I think Dr. Reddy's would be an avoid. On a valuation point of view, maybe one would say that there may not be too much downside left. But I think from upside point of view, I don't think there's too much upside as well. So maybe one can avoid that.
All right. Gaurang, what would you do with some of the oil marketing companies, barring the last couple of sessions? They've seen quite a big drop. What would you do with HPCL, BPCL?
So we're positive on all the three oil marketing companies, Nisha, and I think the biggest trigger is going to come in from the supply from US as far as crude oil is concerned. And we've always maintained our view, even earlier when the production cut was put in place by OPEC and non-OPEC nations, that the consumption theme looks absolutely blink. In terms of the oil prices coming down, our view was that could be possible, and we could again see sub 50 and closer to $45 a barrel mark. And how much of production cut could be withstood by the non-OPEC nations?
Gaurang, I'll just come back to you. Markets have opened 3% down for Dr. Reddy's. We told you about the news flow. 95 rupees now, 3.3% decline for DRL on the first tick. BHEL is down about 1%. BPCL is on the positive side. Crude went down 5%. Maybe that's positively taken by the markets for BPCL. HDFC Bank flat with the negative bias, and Reliance is down about 5 rupees. Kotak Bank yesterday was a big volume buzzer. Today down about 2 rupees. ACC absolutely flat. Ambuja Cement down about 1 rupee or so. Grasim 1,002 rupees. Cipla absolutely flat, 4 rupees down. M&M up about 2 rupees. At this point of time, markets have not seen a very big crack, which is what was expected for the markets as well. GAIL is down about 3.4%. It's got X bonus today, so there is some sort of bonus stripping that's probably happening onto this name, 3.5 to about 4% in terms of decline, 14 odd rupees decline. Dr. Reddy's is down 2.8, so I think it's stable now. Even the ADR was down 2.93%, so maybe there is another 1% extra reaction onto the Indian name, but that's probably what it should react to. ONGC absolutely flat, down about 2 rupees. Remember, it gets positively impacted by the crude oil prices as well, and that's why maybe the street is looking in for some sort of selling pressure on this name. Maybe profit booking as well, as you can call, because it's done also pretty well in the last 2 years. Let's look at Wipro as well and what's happening over there. It's down about 0.9%, so not much. Even volumes are not yet quite picking up for this name. That's Coal India for you, about 1 rupee down. HDFC Limited is up about a rupee or so. Z Entertainment is down close to about 2 odd rupees, and Sun Pharma is up 3 rupees. BPCL is now the top gainer. It could be because of crude, 642. There's not been any particular news except for that. HDFC Limited is up around a rupee or so, 1,368. That's what HDFC is doing. Nalco has gone ex-dividend, so it's not that it's entirely gone down, but it's down, and there is an ex-dividend factor to it, so it's down about 3 rupees or so. Similar is the case with Philip Carbon as well, so that's also a name which has gone ex-dividend today. EIL has a board meet on March 16th, that's next week. That's for a dividend. Remember, it's a company which has cash, it has done well, and the street would expect a decent amount of dividend to actually come in from them. Kotak Mahindra Bank is a stocks in news. There was a big block deal yesterday. We focused on that, and today it's down about 2 rupees or so, 823. Fortis Healthcare, there was a big block deal today, but I don't think the markets are reacting to that. So that's about 179 to close to about 180 odd rupees. Anisha, any other names that you can pick up with good volumes?
Pankaj, GAIL is down about 3.5%. Of course, there's adjustment for the dividend, now down 4%. GAIL at 372.9. Sorry, it's not dividend, it's actually a bonus. It's ex-bonus. So the price correction has taken place. Tata Teleservices is down 6%. That is seeing a reasonable amount of profit taking. Nalco down 3.5%. We've got GVK down 1.5%. We've got MTNL. The volumes are very high a day earlier, and today also volumes remain high. It's down 2%, but it isn't really a big stock that we track on a daily basis. Some of the sugar stocks are having a good run. Sri Renuka Sugar, Bajaj Hindustan on good volumes are up 1.5%. So these are stocks to watch out for. Sri Renuka now up 3%. Dish TV has scaled 100 rupees a share mark and is now up 3%. So Dish TV is one to watch. HPCL is also looking strong. And JSPL was, I think, Vishal's pick. That one is also up 1%. So the markets seem to be stabilizing. And the Nifty is now above 8,900. This is what we have in opening, slightly negative, but still moving up. What would you do with some of the FMCG companies, Shrikant?
Highlight Reliance on BSE. We've seen a very big block deal. We'll just pull that up for you for BSE. It's seen about 39 crore shares, 39.6 crore shares, which have traded so far. So Reliance on BSE, that's the one that has seen a big block deal. It's about 12% block deal. We'll pull up. This is the BSE Limited. We'll pull up Reliance Industries on BSE, and we look at the volumes over there. It's about 39.6 million shares already. If I look at the block deal data, that I get. So the block deal data shows that 39.608 crore shares have been traded on BSE, and that's volume. It's traded in 3 deals or in 3 block deals. And there was earlier a suggestion that, they were looking for an inter-promoter transfer, and that's probably what has happened. There you go. Look at the volumes today, 39.6 million shares. That's about 39.6 crore shares. It's about 12.18. It's an inter-promoter transfer, which the company had already indicated before. They want to reduce their, cross-holding or, the number of entities that hold the promoter stake. That's about 39.6. It doesn't have any impact on the shareholding. It doesn't have any impact on the minority shareholding. But definitely, it's a big volume counter. 12% of Reliance Industries means that turnover today has already gone particularly very, very high. Shrikant, I know inter-promoter transfer would not impact your view on Reliance Industries. Okay, but apart from this, can you just tell us your view on Reliance?
So I think the change which happened clearly was the pricing plans which they announced, and the feeling or the perception that there could be break-even on the Jio thing, which would happen earlier. Once that happened, obviously there is bound to be a reason here, because the extent of investment which have gone into this business and the uncertainty which was there in terms of the returns which this could generate. So clearly there was an uncertainty on account of that. And given that now the perception is that there could be break-even happening earlier, the returns on the investments will start showing in about a year or two. So I think, and valuation point of view, I mean, it's one of the cheapest stocks in the index, given the in the larger names. There is room for upsides.
Right. Gaurang, would you agree with the view that it can further go up despite the recent outperformance?
Well, we had a coverage and our target was 1080 and 1145. It's there already in the price. We would wait for the post-April numbers of the subscriber base, especially on the top end of the pyramid, within which Reliance Jio would possibly garner that revenue number that they have been speaking about. And not to forget, at 303 data pack plan, they are not very cheap when you compare it to likewise to the other service provider. On capacity expansion investment, well, on the petchem side and refining side, well, we are extremely positive. And as and when the newer capacities get added to the existing ones and the commercialized and throws in positive in terms of earning visibility, we would revise it upwards. But that will have to wait for at least another quarter or two for the numbers to tell a story as far as what our outlook on the stock is. So as of now, in terms of your question, Pankaj, whether to invest at current levels or not, well, I would say just wait out and see what the earnings have to show.
Right. Dish TV is also a name which is buzzing right now. It's up 3%, 102, 103. There was some news flow regarding the media sector which could benefit Dish TV, but it came in a couple of days back. Maybe today there is a buyer and it's doing well. Gaurang, you mentioned your view about the oil marketing companies earlier. I just wanted to know, with crude coming down, could that be a reason to buy, or generally after correction, oil marketing companies are looking attractive?
If you look at the business model and the negativities of subsidy issue, which was an overhang, it's all past, the thing of the past, and it's in history. And with the kind of dividend payout also that some of these PSU give out, that also an added attraction other than the kind of outlook that we have on the oil marketing companies. And more than oil marketing companies, our view on the downwards trajectory of crude oil, Pankaj, we believe paint industry, tire manufacturing companies, and certain sectors associated with the crude oil prices coming down on the positive earnings outlook, with some sectors that you should possibly have on your radar. And the fact also remains, Pankaj, that I couldn't complete my statement earlier since the market had opened. Well, the ability for non-OPEC nations to continue with this production freeze or output freeze or production cut, whatever you want to term it, is going to be very, very limited because their economy depends upon crude oil supply to the global markets. And if this is the way the crude oil has to come down, and if US has to throw in more and more crude into the world oil basket, then I think these countries would definitely be the first ones to throw in the towel and say that we cannot continue with the cut, and they will be throwing in as much as possible. So that will possibly also bring down the crude oil prices in the global market.
All right. Vishal, have you had a look at Ballarpur Industries? That one is up 6%. Over the last few sessions, it has seen good moves coming in, and volumes have also been decent. What levels are you watching out for Ballarpur Industries built?
I look at Ballarpur Industries as I'm sure I'm talking about Ballarpur Industries trading at around 18 bucks. So I think there is a quite amount of activity which we have seen in the last few days with volumes. So we can look at targets of around 21.5 in the next few trading sessions without a glitch.
21.5 possible on Ballarpur Industries. What would you do with real estate names now, Gaurang? Stocks like DLF, which were moving up well and then have run to some congestion. HDIL. Do you think any of these stocks can be looked at for a slightly longer term perspective?
So, Amisha, these two stocks feature in our coverage, but that's a sell on rally, not an investment category stocks, both of them. And the debt on the balance sheet, management's consistent effort to sell out non-core assets, land parcels on the balance sheet and bring down debt has not really met with the expectation. From a real estate pack, from an investment point of view, with a year and a half, 2 year plus kind of time horizon, we are positive on Godrej Properties, Mahindra Lifespace, Shobha Limited, Prestige Estates, and Oberoi Realty. These are the balance sheet which have relatively low debt on the balance sheet or virtually negligible. The working capital is not a big problem, and their execution run rate is also much better than the industry standard. So we believe these 4 or 5 names in the real estate pack could be the candidates for long-term investment.
All right. So we've got your real estate picks coming in. Shrikant, what about some of the FMCG names? Stock like HUL, it's facing so much resistance, not able to move up well. But Asian Paints slowly and steadily seems to be moving higher. What would you do with names like Asian Paints, HUL, and even ITC?
I say some of the names are definitely positive on from a long-term perspective, but the overall consumer space is relatively expensive, and that would restrict the upsides for some of these stocks, whether it's in the Sun Lever or even for matter Asian Paints, because in terms of valuation, it's expensive. The story is very interesting. There's been consistent growth there. Among the, if you look at the consumer names, I think Asian Paints, Britannia, Marico, these are some of the names where we've seen reasonably good growth coming through, and so they remain interesting from a long-term perspective. And Asian Paints obviously will be a beneficiary from the overall infrastructure stroke affordable housing kind of theme, where we are talking about significant investments coming through in the affordable housing business, and clearly from that angle, once that pickup is there, Asian Paints also will be one of the key beneficiaries there.
Right. With crude oil prices coming down, at least in the near term, you expect Asian Paints to outperform. Berger Paints is up 2% today. Even Asian Paints is up 1.5.
Yeah, from a purely tactical perspective, maybe from a trading perspective, the news flow will be definitely seen as a positive. At least the fear goes off that significant uptake of crude price is not happening, and there was a fear earlier that margins could take a slight dip or something. Maybe that's not happening.
Right. What do you do with JSPL? Recently, you all have upgraded it to a buy, Shrikant. Do you believe that it's going to do well? Other metal stocks have corrected, but JSPL has not really corrected.
See, JSPL had its own significant issues in terms of debt, in terms of performance, but in terms of recent capacity expansion which has come through, there is a feeling of there's an expectation of a turnaround happening there. So that's where we think there is a valuation related upsides there till about 180 levels. So that's what is the target we're looking at.
180 levels. And what would be the trigger for this? They have had huge problems. They still have to pay a lot of debt. So what do you think will trigger this?
So if you look at it, we've seen steel prices moving, metal prices moving up. So clearly performance-wise, improvement would come through on account of that. And plus the capacity expansion, which has been new capacity which has come through, we think it'll benefit significantly from that as well.
Right. What will be your call on Dish TV? That's the top mid-cap gainer right now. It's up 3.5%.
We remain positive on Dish TV. We have a target about 120, 125 for the stock from a longer term perspective. So we like the theme, overall theme.
Right. Vishal, what will be your call on Dish TV at 103? You think it's going towards a level or that higher end of the range what it has been trading at?
I think so. We have room till 108 to 1010 in the next few trading sessions. The way it is moving up, making higher tops and higher bottoms on daily chart, momentum into bullish zone. So I think 108 to 1010 is quite possible in the next few trading sessions.
But does that quantify to be a buy, or the downside risks are also high and that's why one should avoid?
I don't think it's a major kind of investment buy. I could say trading buy with a stop of 100 rupees. You can get into this stock with a target of 108, 109, but nothing like a major positional trade I would suggest.
Right. What would be your call on the metals pack? So, you've seen correction in Nalco, you've seen correction in Vedanta, Hindalco. What will be your call there?
I think though overall the metal stock, the cycle has changed and the way it has formed on weekly and monthly charts, the patterns have been bullish. So definitely it will be a dip on buy. And as I mentioned earlier, my best pick would be Jindal Steel in the metals pack.
Right. Gaurang, you mentioned about metal packs when we spoke to you about the top picks. Can you just explain what's the call on the metal pack? Do you believe underlying metal stocks would do well, or some mergers like Vedanta, fundraising by Hindalco would actually make balance sheet look much better even if prices were to be where they are?
Well, trimming down excess fat on the balance sheet is always better to make the health long-term durable, Pankaj, of any corporate. But we are more optimistic, and some of the source-based information that I have is that the government is planning to use only domestic made ferrous, non-ferrous metals for the entire infrastructure spend in the budget that the finance minister has set aside of somewhere close to about 4 lakh crores. So if I look at that, if I look at the kind of production cut from China, and of course not looking much at the volatile commodity prices on the metal side, and looking at the consumption thing going up domestically, pricing power should come back of flat and long products. And more importantly, if the companies are able to maintain their input cost at a lower level, that could extend the profitable margin and improve the bottom line to a great extent. Our coverage on the metal pack is Hindalco, Vedanta, JSPL and JSW Steel.
Right. Shrikant, as far as Bharat Finance is concerned, again, do you believe the buzz around any merger has started, but the stock is very expensive if the merger was not going to go through?
I think we recently downgraded to neutral, primarily on concerns of the collections, which the
That's after the recent con call.
Recent con call, yes. So post the recent con call, we downgraded to neutral. We think the valuations, do not factor in those kind of risks. And in any financial thing, the leverage is always high. And when question mark comes on collections or debt on the recoveries, then I think one needs to be cautious at if the valuations are rich. So that will be the case. The current excitement clearly is on terms of reports that there is a merger on the cards with one of the banks, but the company has denied it and or at least not clarified completely on it. So while the buzz continues, I think there could be excitement in the street on account of that, given that there is, given the excitement which continues, which will be there because there is a news flow doing rounds on that front. But in terms of valuation, it is rich and the upside may be limited. So we can look at other options which are like Equitas, where I think stocks have corrected. That is something which one can look at in the microfinance plus small bank space.
Vishal, some of the sugar stocks have been buzzing. Any of the sugar stocks that are looking good on the charts that you can bet on?
I think best pick for sugar stock would be my favorite would be Dhampur Sugar, and it has been performing well and trading at all-time highs. And I trading near all-time highs, and I think it's a nice pattern on monthly chart. So we can look at targets of around 275 to 285 in the next 1 or 2 months. So our best bet would be Dhampur Sugar for me in the sugar pack.
Okay, so Dhampur Sugar is a good bet. What about Idea Cellular and Reliance Communications, Shrikant? They've been on the losing spree for the last couple of sessions. What would you do with these two telecom names?
I say fundamentally we continue to have negative recommendation on both of them. So there's nothing much has changed on a fundamental basis for any of them. Only thing with Idea, obviously, again, it's been reports of merger with Vodafone. So that's something which will keep the market excited from a near-term perspective. But from a fundamental basis, we would, if at all in the telecom space we have to take a pick, it will be Bharti Airtel.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV Profit and sharing with us your views on stocks and your top picks. As you go, please leave us with the disclosures. Shrikant, what are your disclosures?
No personal holdings, but our clients could be holding some of the stocks which we have recommended.
Vishal, your disclosures?
No personal holdings in stock discussed today.
Gaurang, your disclosures?
Well, thank you. For both of you, no investments in any of these stocks that have been discussed or recommended, but recourse could be a part of our client's portfolio.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us on NDTV Profit.